Let's talk investment trends.
Welcome back in, everybody. We have reached noon here, Central Standard Time in Chicago. So into the evening in Israel. Hopefully you are still enjoying Sports Tech Nation and all the panelists and discussions we have so far. Thank you so much to Fernanda to bringing us that wonderful panel on women in sports tech as we transition now to investments and what is new in sports tech investments. Of course, talking SPACs, IPOs, unicorns. The market's always changing and evolving. And who better to moderate that discussion than our main man, Oren? So take it away, sir.
Thank you very much, Josh. Thank you very much. Okay, so guys, show me the money, as we say, right? Gil, Javier, Asaf, it's great to have you all with us. So I must say good morning, Gil, right? What time is it on your hand?
Not terrible, about 12 o'clock. So
12.
okay.
So it's
not
chill.
terrible.
But you start to feel the belly. Lunch is coming soon.
As soon as we finish.
Okay. And Javier, early dinner in Spain? Not yet.
No, come on, Spain later on. It's 7. It's only 7.
Yeah. That's right. And Asaf, I guess that you now need to give some credit to your wife, which is taking the lead today with the children in the shower.
And I'm ready to get to bed. So
we're
all good.
So Gil, BTIG, Javier, Acer Venture, and Asaf, co-founder and CEO at Pico. We're going to bring to you angle of an entrepreneur that is in a process of fundraising and the point of view that he can bring to us, roadshows, fundraising, Zoom, not Zoom, and so on, getting back to normal, raising money through online. Javier will share, of course, his best practice from different angles, leading innovation at FC Barcelona up to now investments, and Gil, that we have a long way to go together talking about SPACs in sports, talking about SPACs in general, and of course the public market. So amazing session ahead. Gil, I will start with you. And as said, early before lunch, tell us a little bit, BTIG, what do you guys do? Tell us a little bit about SPACs in the sports industry. Would be super interesting to hear about it.
First of all, thanks so much for inviting me to participate today. Really incredible. Much appreciation to you, Oren, and to Coliseum Sports. Also, I think my intention was to be in Israel. Very disappointing that things got shut down a little bit, but hopefully we'll get there soon. Quick infomercial for BTIG. BTIG is a full-service investment bank, 750 professionals, 18 offices globally. Not enough representation in Israel, but I'm working on it. So hopefully, coming to a theater near you. But we are equities, fixed income, derivatives, electronic trading, foreign exchange, research, banking, prime brokerage, cap intro, all of the above. I run the firm's SPAC business, SPAC banking, and SPAC capital markets. And it is really very, very exciting. Specifically as it relates to the whole concept of sports tech, sports related businesses. Perhaps you've seen and you've heard, conceptually, just to make sure this is clear, a SPAC is really nothing more than an IPO alternative. Great companies, like my co-panelist companies, great companies, maybe make the decision that they want to be public companies. Valuation's better in the public domain. They want the public equity. They want the greater exposure. And they make the decision to go public. And now you have multiple options. You can go public in the traditional mechanism, the traditional process, S1 IPO, or potentially you can reverse merge, with a shell company, where the sponsor of that company, might be accretive to your business, a partner you're looking for. We recently did a deal. We did a $550 million SPAC. The sponsor is Alex Rodriguez. Once upon a time, the New York Yankees. I'm a Yankees guy, so I'm not going to talk about the Texas Rangers or the Seattle Mariners. But the thesis being that if you're taking your company public and simultaneously can get access and exposure to Alex Rodriguez and what he represents, that's compelling. Shaquille O'Neal has a SPAC. Kevin Durant has a SPAC. Many owners, David Bonderman, TPG, has done multiple SPACs. He owns the Seattle Kraken. John Ledecky of the Islanders, Terry Pagula of the Buffalo Sabres and the Buffalo Bills.
I think that one of the main reasons that SPACs got such a hype, maybe it's also because of the brand around sports, that many of the SPACs in general are related to sport, right?
1000%. And again, the last comment, like companies like DraftKings, like Skills, Golden Nugget Online Gaming, Online Casinos, Rush Street Interactive, again, great companies at an inflection point that want to go public. Suddenly, like there's the ability to partner with someone like Terry Pagula, and that's exciting.
Amazing. So we're gonna come back to Alex Rodriguez in a minute. Javier, so you're coming from the elite. I would say always on the top. As a humble guy, I know you for many years. You've been to Tel Aviv every Sports Tech Nation, 2018, 19, 2020 online. I would
I miss to be there. So I definitely next year I will be there again.
At least you have luck. I cannot hug you now. We are online, but soon it will happen. So just we're going to be serious on that. Coming from FC Barcelona, elite of the sports, up to Acer Ventures, elite on the investments, right? What can you tell us a little bit about the deal flow around sports? Is it sufficient? Because everyone, people ask me as market leader in sports tech, Oren, it's great, but we are looking for more deal flow. And yet we see that the sports industry is booming in terms of valuation. It's close to $700 billion. We see huge SPACs are coming on the way. So I must ask this question. There are more and more VCs coming into the hood, as we say. How do you see the deal flow?
No, I see the deal flow very promising. And actually, and I think, Oren, we have talked about this many times. It's not only a question of sport itself, or the sports sector itself. It's a question of what we call the transversality of a sport, which is, at the end of the day, is to what extent a sport is so relevant and makes a huge impact in many other different sports, what we call related sectors. So at the end of the day, sport is so relevant in society that can create an impact in healthcare, can create an impact in entertainment, can create an impact in mobility. For instance, in Acer Ventures, what we do is we try to occupy the space between tech, media, and sport, and this is definitely an intersection that has a huge potential and a huge value. So, in my view, definitely the deal flow is amazing. It's really promising. It's growing, but it's not only a question of sport itself. It's a question of how sport relates to other sectors and the massive impact that they can generate in other activities.
And on the other hand, Asaf, that leads to you. The sports industry, I guess you tackled many VCs. As Javier said, there is great deal flow and the deal flow is growing. And yet, when it's super exciting to work for and to establish a sports tech company, and yet how do you feel from your point of view, the market in terms of fundraising, in terms of growth, and so on?
I think the market progressed a lot in the last couple of years. I think that if 5 years ago or 4 years ago, when we started to have some business traction and we went out to the market to fundraise, nobody really know how to digest a core sport tech company. Also, it's important to understand that sport tech is very wide. There's companies like ours who works with the sports clubs as customers on the administrative side, and there's companies who work with the sports clubs on the competitive sides, or companies who work with fitness sports and so on. So there's many different verticals, many different investors. Each of them are more comfortable in different verticals of this sport tech space. But I'm seeing the market progresses, especially now when there's so much money out there, the market of people trying to invest, whether it's through IPOs and SPACs or through private investments. I think investors today has a much better understanding of the whole space. What does it actually mean?
So get into that. So we have the angle with Asaf, and then late stage with Javier, and up to you for the public market, Gil. And yet 2020, huge hype, and then a little bit slowing down. What do we see now? What we can forecast for 2022?
If you want first my opinion from the public markets, standpoint.
For sure we don't want my opinion, yeah, on that.
Yeah. No, I hear you, but we do want your opinion for sure. We do expect it to be somewhat of a robust year. I think the pace at which, we're seeing technology evolve and opportunities that many of us couldn't even think of, once upon a time, is very, 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 very attractive and exciting. In the capacity of what I do, we talk to investors all the time. Again, more in the public domain than in the private sector, but they're I think starving, for new ideas, new concepts, technologies that leverage what's happening in the sports arena. The last bastion of live television, right? Live events. They want the information. Interactivity has never been, more possible. The relationships that are being created with teams, with professionals, given all the mediums that exist, to bring their personalities forward has become very, very compelling. And at least it's my opinion that should be a very big 2022 for the Sports Tech Nation.
To follow on that with the brand names that you've mentioned, like Alex Rodriguez and so on, how do the market preserve people that are coming from the sports industry, like Shaquille, like Alex, and many others that are tapping into the SPAC industry, in terms of the hype of the SPAC, closing the pipe, and the ability to actually find a good lead company to merge? Right. How important it is?
So I'll make the assumption that everybody on this, call, and anyone who's out there listening understands this terminology, pipe, and how this works. But let me just try to simplify it, for 1 second. You again have to imagine that there are companies at an inflection point, great companies that when they choose to go public would appreciate some sort of a relationship with someone like Shaquille O'Neal. Again, he's a personality. You see him on television all day, every day. Paid sponsorships, commercials. He's got the NBA, the NBA, show.
It's calling now.
Yeah, exactly. We got stuff going on. But for a company, it may not be the financial genius or the pedigree working at the large banks, etc. From a financial standpoint, it becomes more from a marketing standpoint. It's publicity. How do we get word out? He's on television, NBA sports, pregame, sure. And if he talks about what he's doing, or he's references that, or he appears on CNBC, it's valuable. It's extraordinarily valuable. So a lot of the sports figures, the professionals surrounding the SPAC franchise, the SPAC product, that's what they bring to the table. Connectivity, interactivity with your brand, knowledge, of the business, but also marketing and public relations.
So Javier, maybe to ask you, is SPAC a terminology that is common now around the VC? Is it something that you guys are aiming, looking for, pushing your companies to get into?
Definitely, it's an alternative. Now it has become a very natural alternative, which was not the case 2 years ago. And building up on a soft point before, which was, it's much easier right now to talk to either entrepreneurs or investors to link them in this sports tech world. I would say a couple of years ago, when I was at Barca, it was not that easy for a new company to look for investors in this space, and actually even for clubs or for even for leagues. Now it seems very natural for different competitions to go to financial markets and ask for financing. While this a couple of years ago, and nobody would have thought about it, and now this is absolutely natural. And also building, another point that he was making, for me, it's also very relevant, is how broad sports tech can be. And actually, I think one of the key challenges of the sector right now is to shape those type of opportunities, and being able to define which opportunities are the ones that will make and generate a great impact. Because sometimes, and also based in my experience in the club as well, you see that perhaps sometimes certain technology is very fancy because it's very well linked with top professional sport. But on the other hand, the full potential is when you reach the mass market. So that combination, how you struggle with that combination, and you are able, obviously, to use that commercial potential and marketing potential of the pros, but also with businesses that are related to the mass market. This is great, definitely a great challenge for the future.
It's an interesting point, and I think that this point is very much related to you, Asaf, in growing in the market. And I will be back to you, Asaf, in a minute. But Javier, it's interesting. I guess the audience ask himself now. So, Acer Ventures invest in different verticals around sports, or you have a specific focus?
No, we invest in different, but mainly in that intersection between sport, media, and tech. So at the end of the day, we have a broad portfolio of companies that are related to sport, but also to media and tech. So our key goal is to invest in companies that can create synergies with our current portfolio. Bear in mind that within our portfolio, we have football clubs, we have broadcasting companies, we have social networks. So we have different types of companies, and our final goal is to create synergies in order to make all those businesses grow.
So that's a very good insight. Asaf, going back to you from the tech entrepreneurship, I would say industry as a CEO, co-founder, and so on. How would you recommend now an early stage entrepreneur in your shoes? You're getting into your next round now, right? And growing, and you have big brands around your arm, but early stage entrepreneur getting into the industry even before we reach and knock on the door in Javier and wish to go and meet Gil in the future. Where would you recommend him to go, and which doors you need to look for?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think my experience is very early stage is somehow not very rational. It's more of a emotional thing. And we got into sports because we found a real gold mine of a place that we can actually provide real values. And I think the most important point to whoever you're reaching out depends on the fund size, the fund stage, and so on. And there's so many. Like again, 4 years ago, I could have counted them on one hand, or maybe two hands the most. Now there's tens of them who invest in sports, who look at different verticals in sports, and so on. I would say traction is a key. It's always a key. But good traction, good clubs, understanding which markets you're actually, because sport is so big. There's so many things you can do in sports, and there's so much room for innovation inside. So you have to figure out exactly where you are at. 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, the term fan engagement was kind of like what sport tech is today. Right. Everything was fan engagement. And now everybody speaks about sport tech as if sport tech is everything. But when you're comparing, Pico and other successful startup companies, we might both be in sport tech, but we might have no relation with each other, not the same type of investors, not the same type of deal flows, not the same type of potential M&As or IPOs or whatever. But I think that before you knock on Acer's doors and Acer's equivalent, who actually knows how to invest in the sports club side of technology, you have to prove that you actually have something that sports clubs want. Because sport club as an entity is like a unique animal, and you need to know how to work with it and how to nurture the relationship and how to build the values. Those things takes time. So I'm not that experienced with other markets. I'm very well familiar with the sports market, so my experience is there. But I imagine that it works a bit different than cybersecurity or any other type of thing. Right. So I would recommend. Israel is very small. It's very easy to get in Israel to, Danny Federman. I know he was speaking with Talpas the other day about this, how easy it is to open doors in Israel to the sports clubs and get the first traction coming in. And then once you have some traction and you can prove some value, raise a small round, maybe angel size from your closer area, show some growth, get to the bigger clubs. Maybe you don't want to sell to the bigger clubs. Maybe FC Barca is not your dream club or dream customer. Maybe you work with mid-markets, with second leagues and so on. So just make sure you have traction that is significant and that makes sense in terms of numbers to grow to something significant. It sounds obvious, but it's not that easy to do it.
No, but it's interesting to say, because Javier mentioned earlier, if you go for the big, it's too small. If you go for the small, it's big. So you need to balance yourself in terms of the brands and the show off. And as said before, right, in terms of getting traction and also for SPAC. So it's all about checks and balances, I guess. So there is always the question about the one-liner. What do you think is going to be in 2020? But let me take you with kind of, I would say, thinking about, let's talk December 2020. If I would ask you, Gil, Asaf, Javier, December 2020, let's go a bit back. We were like, what's going on with this COVID? How do we deal with it? Is it going to be a new variant or not? But if I would ask you back then, let's say Sports Tech Nation 2020, not 2021, how do you see the year to come and where we are today? What is there? There is a big gap in between, or you saw that the market are still going to be, I would say, successful market. Gil, starting with you.
Yeah,
Actually,
I'll
if
start
you
first.
don't mind, I have to jump in. Gil, I'm sorry I'm jumping in
No,
because
no, go.
me and Javier as a funny story I shared with him a couple of weeks ago when we chatted. I think it was in Sport Tech Nation 2019 when Javier was still in FC Barca and he was talking about data and about how the next step in sports, the match is in the databases. And I told him, listen, this is funny because I'm quoting you in my presentations because we are living up to Javier's vision of showing clubs that the match is actually inside the databases. So I'm happy at least to say that on our side, we were able to predict and execute on what we think, what Javier's vision was as our side. So
if I would know that, I would take royalties because I guess it was on the SDN.
That's why I never told you this story.
We're going to talk about it later on.
It was there.
But yes, going public, because it's all about the money and the big money. And Gil, you guys are hitting the market with the huge deals. So we are December 2020, looking ahead at 2021. Is there a big gap or you're on the plans? What?
December 2020 was a period of uncertainty. And I think all of us were sitting at home, Zoom technology, trying to figure out, what was, happening. But there was a belief in the resiliency of the markets and of the professionals, et cetera. And you saw companies like Zoom and Peloton take off. And in the sports tech universe, we said, all right, the professional sports may not be being played in the arenas, but esports, is up and coming. And
right.
Online gambling, sports gambling, et cetera,
Right.
and figuring out how to take advantage of that. And, again, December 2020, I'm shaking because I remember the tension and the uncertainty, but again, confidence in the resilience, I think, of the capital markets and the professionals, and that there would be opportunities for all of us, to again take advantage of and capitalize on.
So 2022 now, where are we heading?
I've already sort of, echoed my bullish sentiment in the creativity of the people on this panel and, everyone who's, here listening in. So, I'm bullish on opportunities that continue to reflect themselves. You guys, I assume you agree.
Asaf, 2020 December, did you imagine that this is it's gonna look like it is today?
I think so. Obviously, there is a lot of uncertainty, but the end result, yes. I think the market progressed to where.
How many teams you had? How many teams or clients you had back then, December, and how many you have today, if I may ask? Right.
I can't share exact numbers, but I can tell you that we tripled our clientele base from 2019 to 2020.
Impressive.
I don't want to say thanks to COVID, but because of COVID, and we doubled it up in the last year. So
nice.
For us, this whole situation of uncertainty plays well because it increased the reliance on digital engagement for clubs, which is our home game. So
I'll leave for Javier. I will leave 2021 aside, and I will ask you, how do you forecast 2022?
No. I just wanted to make, if you allow me, one point. I was honored the other day with and getting to know Pico and Asaf project. It's really amazing, and actually I was honored by his words the other day. But it's absolutely true. It's about data in the sector. Just to your previous question. And I will give you just one point, which is a year ago, nobody in Spain knew what CVC was. Now CVC, everybody knows what CVC is just because they are kind of financing the new project of La Liga. So this is to say that obviously the market is completely developing. The market is growing. Opportunities are there. For me, in the future, it's going to be, and going back to your last point, it's going to be related to new formats from competition perspective, adding up new assets in that commercialization strategies. And again, data is going to be one of the key elements for the future.
Amazing. So with that, I would say, Gil, thank you for sharing your time with us. I know the end of the year, a lot of deals coming, a lot of activities. I really appreciate your time. Javier,
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much friend that runs for many years. Asaf, see you in the neighborhood, right?
Right. Always.
Bye, guys. Thank you very much.
Bye bye.
Pleasure. Thank you.